Hi, everybody, and welcome back to yet another cracking edition of the Matt Brown Show. This is the Secrets of Scale series, where we're talking about scale and kind of lessons and insights around how to scale your companies. I recently read a book by a mate of mine, Howard Mann, called Fewer Better. And in today's episode, we're going to be touching on some key insights from his book, which I believe will help you to scale and build better businesses. I know that after reading his book, it definitely made a difference to me. So this is why we're here today. His name is Howard Mann. Howard, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Great to be back, actually.
I know, dude. How many times have you been
here? Second or third time on the famous Matt Brown Show.
Please, can you make it stop, dude? You know what I mean?
I'm trying, but I keep trying to get out. You pull me back in, like the famous line.
Fuck. Yeah. Well, it's good to have you here, man. So fewer better. We're going to get into the meat and the potatoes around that in a moment, everyone. But Howard, as I usually ask my guests, why don't you give us a little bit of your background and give our viewers around the world the elevator pitch about Howard Mann?
Okay. I'm a third-generation entrepreneur. In the first half of my career, which is now 35 years old, which makes me feel old to say that, I owned a mid-sized freight logistics company. That company went through hard times in the late 90s, and I spent 4 very stressful, lonely, worry-filled years turning it around and getting it fixed. Finally sold it in 2000, and then wanted to take those lessons learned the hard way and see how I could help other business owners never have to go through what I went through. And that has led to helping companies as intensely as being the interim CEO and as little as being their coach, and helping them find a better way to enjoy their entrepreneurial journey and enjoy their businesses now, in the future, and for the someday that they hope to have an exit.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the issue, right? It's we love to talk about scale and this kind of stuff. And from my experience, I've found scale to be a kind of a double-edged sword in many cases. And I've touched on this before about the reasons why. So fewer better. What's the premise for the book?
I think that what was gnawing at me is meeting so many entrepreneurs who have decided that owning a business means suffering for a long period of time in the hopes that someday they will have this glorious moment, so whether it's a sale or some big success. And so they wind up giving their entire career to a someday that may or may not ever come, and miss out on enjoying the journey and the process of operating and owning a business. And the antidote to that is not where we currently think about trying to do more of everything and offering more and more choices. And I'll offer more services because my competitors are offering more services. That the answer and the antidote to that level of stress and not enjoying the journey is actually doing fewer things better than anybody else, and going deep into your craft and embracing that whatever it is you do, whether you're a lawyer, an accountant, or a pot maker, that you enjoy your craft until such time as you become the best in the world at it.
Cool. So one of the key things for me, just to double click on the fewer better idea that really jumped for me from your book, was this idea of having fewer clients, but better clients. And I think there's this myth, isn't it, around like, well, to scale, we need to add more and more and more and more at all costs, no matter what. And it's just about grow or die. You know, it's just a single-minded narrative, right? Which is how much revenue did we add? But to your point, the consequence of that, going back to my point earlier around ambition and scale, sometimes you wind up with a business that you don't actually like, or you wind up with a portfolio of clients that you don't actually like. And so as a consequence of that, to your point, Howard, it's about building a better business, right? So it can get to scale, but it's made up of clients that you love working with, that are going to stick around with you. They're not trying to leverage you on price. Like, you know, you get clients who are just nice to say that you have them, but actually they're dicks,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And so just unpack this idea. Like, how do you scale a company? In other words, how do you keep growing but make sure that you are adding fewer clients but better ones in your portfolio so that you live a more happier existence as a CEO?
So just to go a little bit wide on that, to make that clear when we go narrow, is it cuts across everything. It's fewer, better products and services. It's fewer, better people in your company. It's fewer, better expenses. It's fewer, better clients. And so it really works across the entire organization to allow you to focus. So if you want fewer, better clients, I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I meet who just don't like their clients, or they like a few, because they are all chasing more for the sake of more, and that they want to have that hockey stick up to the right. That is success to them, but success is not really that. Success is working with people that you love or care about and like, with clients that you care about and like, where you actually care about the outcome of those clients. So imagine a business where you are living day to day with fewer, better people who you care and like working with, while you take care of clients that you care and like working with. That winds up leading to scale. And so our formula's flipped a little bit. We just grab more because we're thinking about growing numbers as scale, as to growing fulfillment and satisfaction, both satisfaction of the people that work for us, satisfaction for the clients, and that in turn winds up growing the business. It's how we perceive our business as a bunch of people serving a bunch of people, as opposed to a spreadsheet and measuring our whatever goal we set for the year that we have to hit.
Yeah, it's a really interesting insight for me. How do you ensure, because oftentimes I think it's about stage of company, isn't it? So if you are in survival mode, if you go to a founder who's just trying to get his first few customers and you say to him, yo, say no to that guy or that girl or that client, because you know, this is the thing with startups, or survival stage companies, where they're kind of starving on indigestion because they wind up saying yes to everything. And then they wind up doing work that they hate, or they find like they don't have the capacity to have any kind of balance in their life because they've just said yes to everything. And so survival stage CEOs or founders, they really struggle with this idea of saying no. Whereas if you are Series A funded, you've got $5 million in the bank. So now you have a little bit of runway and you now have the luxury of saying no. So when it comes to, having fewer, better clients, is it feasible from your perspective, or what is your advice to, say, an earlier stage startup that's, say, pre-seed or seed, maybe doing $5,000-$6,000 a month in revenue? They're a SaaS company, as an example, around how to choose better clients, or is it purely services? Because for me, does your SaaS software care as much as you do about who's paying for the subscription?
Well, even with SaaS software, lousy clients will show up, and they'll be the ones that are sending support questions every minute or going online saying that your software sucks. And so it's a slippery slope. So I think the answer to the question, even at early stage, is to be really clear about your vision, to have crystal clarity about the values of your company. So who do you want to attract? Fewer, better people, and fewer, better clients, in terms of saying, who is our client? And being really clear about the vision of where you want to go, and then reverse engineering it. I heard a great story recently, if you'll indulge me, from the founder of Ring doorbells that sold for $1 billion+ to Amazon not long ago. And he told a story about how he went to pitch to VCs, and he had 3 different slide decks. The first slide deck just had the mission up there of who he wanted to serve. And there were a bunch of VCs says, yeah, great, happy to read mission, but we're looking for people, we're looking for better products, whatever. And he said, okay, goodbye. Then he was looking for a VC who said, love the mission, now tell me about the products. And he then had a different slide deck where he showed all the different ways that mission would feed itself into these incredible products. And then for the people that wanted to know about the people, then he'd go to that third. And he then had this enormous success. And the VCs early on said to him, well, why didn't you tell us all about the products and whatever? He said, because I wasn't going to let you, I was interviewing you, wasn't going to let you invest until you believed in our mission first. And so bring that back to a startup. And I get that they just want money and they just want customers. But if you don't start with a North Star and say, we are the software, or we are the company that serves these people better than anybody else. And as long as that niche is large enough to get you where you want to go, that's enough. And you have to rethink, because the person who then gets that $5 million Series A round has already started with the bad habits. Their mission statement and their core values and their vision of who they want is any customer who's willing to pay us. And so you can't complain later on when you don't like your customer base if you had no filter for who you would take.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. One of the key things just on your mission, right, sounds to me like there's this whole argument around like it's your why. And one of the things that you write about in your book is nobody cares about your why. Can you unpack that idea for us?
Well, I think that entrepreneurs, right, there's this famous TEDx talk by Simon Sinek, which is brilliant. And it talks about how you want to understand your why and that your customers will be attracted to that. And I think to some degree that's true. But, big but, customers want you to care about their why first. And we don't approach sales that way. So we walk into a sales presentation, or we make our websites telling you all about my why, right? And so his example in that TED Talk is about Apple, that Apple's why is to make beautiful products that are the best in the world, or whatever it is. And if that's what it said on Apple's website, people wouldn't buy. People buy because of how Apple makes them feel, which is fueled by their why, but it is not why people buy. And so the point of that chapter in the book is to sort of poke an entrepreneur and say, how much do you know about the why of your customer? Do you know that what your customers want in life? Do they want for your customer? Do they want more money? Do they want to feel better about themselves? Do they want to make their customers happy? Is your product going to help them fuel their why? And once they understand that you're interested in helping them fuel their mission, they will then be more interested in your why.
Yeah, there was another great story in your book was when your company, I believe, was getting acquired or something like that. And it was a meeting of the different, decision makers from the different businesses. And it was complete blue sky mode. And, it was like, yeah, what if we did this? And oh my God, we could go here and here and here and da-da-da-da. And then one of the guys was like, yeah, my customers just want to know where their stuff is.
That's it. That was it. And he was right. We were talking about technology and innovation, and we're going to do all these incredible things together and all that. And he just said, my clients don't give a shit about that. They just want to know where's my stuff. And he was right. That is all they care about. They don't care how the sausage is made. They don't care about my mission. They just want to know that I'm going to get their stuff from point A to point B on time. And if they need to know where it is, that I can tell them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Period.
So this another thing that was kind of contrarian to a lot of wisdom out there was this idea of go slow to go fast. So there's I feel it, right? I think you get a type of energy. I think it's typical. Sometimes it's masculine. Typically, it's masculine, I should say, where you are going to war every day, and it's just this like complete clusterfuck of energy that you're releasing every single day in this pursuit of growing fast. And it's like, how fast can I get there? How fast can I get to this revenue, $1 million? How fast can I add one more client? How fast? And I think this is also peddled by the narrative of Silicon Valley also, in the sense of like, we have to raise money to add more customers to scale faster. And if we don't scale fast enough, then our competitors are going to come in and eat our lunch and so on and so forth. So you actually have this alternate view, which is go slow to go fast, which is very insightful. So unpack that for us.
So a lot of people like to use the phrase that it's a marathon, not a sprint, but they don't follow don't follow the phrase. They just like to say it. And so the go slow to go fast comes from, which become a very popular training method for runners, which is called zone 2 training, where you almost in the beginning shuffle along to keep your heart rate down to what feels like a ridiculously low rate from the psyche that wants us to feel our heart beating out of our chest and our lungs ready to explode, to feel like we're working out hard. But the people that wind up being able to run these 100-mile marathons or these long races actually need to go slow and build up their capacity to be able to run that far. And what they find is that they're able to run faster and faster over a longer period of time and still keep their heart rate that low. And so just translate that to business and how we think about things. And it goes back to the original, my original mission, which is to enjoy the journey. So if you're trying to crush it and grow at all costs, and we got to get, somebody's going to eat our lunch, and walking around feeling that somebody's trying to eat our lunch, then we've sort of lost the plot. We're not thinking about our customers. We're not thinking about our product or service in a way that it is our craft. And if you think back to, Apple is a great example, because it is a company filled with craftspeople. Why does Apple care about their packaging? Because it's part of them caring. They don't have to make their packaging cool. They don't have to think about how they're going to wrap up the wire in the box. Nobody necessarily cares, but it matters to them. And because of all of those little details, and because of them really caring about every little detail and corner and what the box feels like and the laminate on the boxes and the product, people love it and they feel it in all kinds of ways. But more importantly, the company grows because they're so incredibly focused on their craft.
Yeah, and that's a great point, right? We kind of just want to get to market with something instead of, and again, it's an MVP idea, isn't it? How fast can you launch with a shitty product? It's like,
right. But you could just as easily launch with a smaller, perfect product. Right? We've gotten this idea that MVP should be messy and sloppy and just ship it and get it out there or whatever, and that's true. But it's a matter of phrasing and thinking. So rather than thinking that I'm just trying to get something out there, it's really what are the, not minimal, I'm just saying this now, but instead of minimal viable product, what if it's the minimum valuable product? Right? What if you're saying there's more I could do here, but this part that I'm putting out is perfect? What happens when you approach it that way and think about, okay, then what is just the perfect nugget of this piece of software that I want to put out into the world to solve this specific problem that I'm trying to solve?
Yeah, got it. So Howard, this one that I really love, which I've been using consistently in my business, is this idea of a 36-month year. So the insight for me here is, we put ourselves under a lot of pressure to kind of go from A to B in 12 months. So when you at the beginning of the year, you're like, what's our revenue goal? We want to get to $1 million, whatever it is. And so we make all of our decisions in that 1 year context. So for me personally, scaling a company is hard, but doing it in a way that doesn't ruin your day most days, where you're suffering and you're stressed because you have this 1 year period to get to $1 million, and so you come up with this really amazing idea called the 36-month year. So and that for me, I think about 36 months and I go, oh shit, like I don't actually need to feel like I'm under so much pressure. You know what I mean? Like it removes this pressure of trying to scale as fast as possible. And so
it's the tactical implementation of going slow to go fast.
Yeah.
So the 12-month year is a construct, not to get woo-woo on you, but like who decided that a year is 12 months, right? And that a business calendar is 12 months. It matters more for a public company. And so we're used to hearing about quarterly results and full year results and how that impacts the stock price. But if you're not a public company, why are you wind up in this terrible death spiral of fighting through the year, trying to hit a number target that you came up with January by the end of December. And then in January, you have to just do it all again plus 10 or 20%. And it's just Groundhog's Day. And you wind up never making the kind of true leaps that you really want to make. So the idea of the 36-month year is what would you do if a year wasn't 12 months and it was 36 months? And you said, okay, in 36 months, I want to be here. And it gives you some freedom and takes some pressure off to say, okay, then what things do I have to put in place in the first 12 months so that I'm on my way there? And then what do I do in my second 12 months that I start to accelerate? And then I'm really on the way to having the business that I truly want to have, as opposed to having a whole list of things in my pocket that I wish someday, I wish, I should do this. It would be great if we could do this, but we just don't have the time because I'm dying to hit this number that I promised somebody at the beginning of the year. And it creates stress, and it creates mistakes, and it creates missed opportunities that aren't necessary if you're not having to report stock prices to the market.
So I'll give a personal example here. So, I've been studying my securities exams, right? So that whole thing has gone out the fucking window. Like, I don't have time, dude. Like, I legit don't have time. I'm doing 50 podcasts a week. I got clients I need to serve. I'm a family, dad, blah, blah, blah. Spring break now at the moment, and I don't get to, I literally don't have the time. So, and my intention, funnily enough, was to get this whole thing done by March. So right. That ship sailed. I'm not going to hit that at all. And so your 36-month year thing is, well, if it's 36 months, right, then I can literally get it done next year, and it's still within my 1 year roadmap. Do you know what I mean? And so
yes, but the other way to think about that is you taking this test, and I know just because I know you, is a piece of a larger plan. Right? It's not just to take the test as your goal. It's, I want to take the test so that I can then do this, and then I can then do this. So the way I would rephrase that is that 36 months from now, you want to be able to do transactions and be involved with businesses in a way that requires that you pass this test. And so one of the steps that you now don't have to do by March, but probably have to do this year, in order to be where you want to be in 36 months. So it conquers a bit of this feeling that you might be feeling like, oh, I said I was going to do this by March and I'm not. And so if you wind up doing it in April and May, as long as you're moving towards this bigger goal that you want for yourself, that's the idea. And again, you're not enjoying the journey if you're beating yourself up over failures all the time. That's just, think about just the idea of the phrase, enjoy the journey. If you think about driving down a country road and looking at the trees, there is no pressure. There is no beating yourself up over that. It's about appreciating that you're on this path, and having urgency is great. But if you want to enjoy your life and you want to spend time with your kids and that's part of it, right? That's part of enjoying the journey. Going all the way back to when we talked about scale. Scale is great, but scale means something different to everybody. And so the first question to have before you start your company is, what does scale mean to you? What does happiness mean to you? Is happiness getting to have $1 billion company? Awesome. Is scale saying, I'd like to make this much money, I'd like to have a company filled with 6 people that I really love working with, and I'm going to work with 35 clients? And that's scale to me. That's okay too. It's okay. And everywhere in between that spectrum is okay. But most people don't stop and say, what does scale actually mean to me? What am I raising this money for? Just because everybody else is raising money, because it could raise money?
Yeah, and these are questions we don't ask sometimes until it's too late. So, for me, when I first scaled a company, got to 55 people, and then I woke up one morning and went, this is literally hell. I hate it. I was doing things I didn't like doing. I was dealing with people I didn't like dealing with, and like the constant train of a management team, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is horrible. I'd much rather have a big business with a small team. So I have this new thing called the team lunch rule. So if I can't have my entire company around my house for lunch, there's too many people. And so then when you think about, well, how do you create or reach those levels, right? And hence why I'm doing the security stuff, is so that I can have leverage. So by leverage, I'm able to scale faster, but doing it on my terms. So not just adding headcount for the sake of adding headcount, because I think we often measure ourselves, don't we? And I think you write about this in your book, Fewer Better, also, that we measure our successes against how many people. It's exactly what I just said. We're 55 people. Oh, that's a scalable business. But like, was it, what was the context of that business? Was the revenues increasing? Like this whole, what types of, like this, if you actually get into it, is it really a successful business? I don't know. But I
ask my clients sometimes, and they think it's like a joke question, but it's not. I said, would you like to have a business that's doing $20 million of revenue and making $400,000 worth of profit, or a company that does $2 million worth of revenue and is making $1 million worth of profit? It seems like a simple question, but I think plenty of entrepreneurs would like to have a $20 million business making very little profit, because they think that that's scale. They think that that's success, right? What's the first thing when I used to when I would give a keynote, I would tell people when I walked out on purpose, I owned a freight logistics business that had 140 people in 6 offices in the US and $150 million in revenue. And everybody's, and I sold it in 2000. Oh my God, it's the entrepreneurial dream. Wow, what a great story. And then I tell them, yeah, and I was losing money for years, and my life was miserable. I lost my smile, and it didn't make me happy. So what good is it all? I enjoyed some of the people I am close with, some of the people that I work with. But if that company, if I had, to borrow another one of my phrases, said, fuck you to my pride, and said, you know what, this company could be 45 people doing $60 million, $40 million worth of revenue and making a lot of profit, and a lot less stress and really enjoying it, I'd probably still be running that business today. But my pride wouldn't let me do that. Cutting offices, closing offices, and scaling back to just what made my business great, fewer, better. My pride wouldn't allow it back then. And it cost me the business, essentially.
Pride is a real issue. It's a real issue.
And so you have to start to figure out what really matters to you. Are you doing it for your pride? Is it ego? Is it so that you can, when you're out with friends, you can say it, or when you're on social media that you can say it, or you can tell people that you raised the Series B and C round? Or is it not even fun for you anymore, but you're just on the ride and you don't know how to get off? Most of my turnaround clients over the years, or now that I'm an EOS implementer, most of the people that I'm working with haven't stopped to figure out how to rein it back in. And for the clients that are struggling, it's because they're doing the opposite of fewer, better. So the antidote is to just get that mantra into their head across the entire company. Why are you spending money on this? Why are you in these businesses that you're not making money in? Just because your competitors are, because you wanted to scale? You have to ask yourself some hard questions sometimes and separate yourself from the hurricane that is being inside of your business to try to understand your motivation and get some perspective to adjust. And that starts by saying, you know what, my happiness on this journey actually matters.
It's a very important point. Howard, we got sponsors, so we're going to take a quick break. Just relax there. I'll see you in a minute.
Cool.
The Matt Brown Show is presented by Carafin, an investment bank that offers and supports direct private investments in U.S. operating companies. Over the past 20 years, investors have placed over $1.2 billion of private debt and equity in more than 100 companies through Carafin and its affiliates. Carafin leverages technology to empower its community of investors to deploy their capital far more efficiently than ever before, and connects their community of engaged investors with worthy companies. Invest portions of your portfolio in direct private investments today. Visit carafin.com/Matt Brown Show for more. And we're back. So, Howard, you touched on the word profit just now. One of the things you also write about in your book is that profit is a freedom metric. Please double click on that for our audience.
Everybody, the full phrase is that revenue is an ego metric and profit is a freedom metric. So that means that just like we were talking about, you could have an $80 million company and have very little profit. And so you're not going to, profit is what's going to allow your business to grow. Profit's what's going to give you the lifestyle that you want to live. I've met and worked with way too many companies who have extraordinary profit growth, but can't pay their mortgage, right? And have incredible profitable revenue growth and make less pay than somebody who's a sole practitioner somewhere. And it's all for the hope of someday. And I think our fascination with revenue numbers fools us into working on the real part that fuels a company, which is cash flow, which is profit. Profit allows you to give yourself a big fat bonus at the end of the year, and bonuses to all the people that you care about in the company. Profits are what allow you to reinvest to deepen the expertise and to hire people that you wish that you could hire, but you find that you can't because you don't have enough profit. And it really straps the company from doing all the things that it could do because there is no focus on profit. And the solve for that is to have a second CEO in the company, which is your chief expense officer. As companies get fat and they're moving fast, they stop to forget about expenses, and they have all kinds of expenses going on in the company that are killing their profits. I think even at a macro level, the big tech companies across the US are finding that out now as they start to question themselves. So why do they have 20,000 people here? Why did they hire 150,000 people during the pandemic? Why do they have free lunches and free bus services and all these things? And they're even questioning the productivity of the people when they hire so many. So again, fewer, better expenses is the solve there. And to start to prioritize your profit. So the other part that I write about is that leaps in profit only can exist in an environment that demands them. And so you don't start the year by demanding profit. You start the year by figuring out what revenue you're going to have. And I'd flip that. And there's a great book by Mike Michalowicz called Profit First that has this very simple formula that is revenue minus the profit that you demand to make, I'm adding that part in, equals the expenses you have to spend. And that's different than revenue minus expenses equals the profit. And that little flip is a powerful one as long as you demand. So many companies I meet are running along and growing at 5% margin. If they decided, you know what, I want to be at 20% margin. I'm going to demand that we operate at 20% margin. So I'm going to take my revenue and I'm going to first subtract 20% margin out of that because I want to make that profit. And that what's left are the expenses that I have to spend, and I can't spend $1 more than that. That's discipline. That's discipline around profit, which will allow you to grow and have the business and the life that you want. But you have to demand profit first, not revenue.
Yeah, Mike's been on my show, and I was actually going to mention profit first because it kind of felt in the same space, and I like the fact that you added the profit you demand because that's actually really important. And we just don't do it. We just don't approach financial planning in that sense. It's always around, well, how much have we got left after all expenses? But actually, it's about decision making and financial maturity or financial management maturity, I guess.
There is a school of thought that I'll worry about profits later. Right now, I just have to grow revenue at all costs. And then when I get to a certain point, then I'll be able to control the profit. But I think the culture around spending, the culture and the lack of discipline around profit is your default. It's your culture. You don't care about expenses. You don't care about profit, right? Where you're putting your energy and your focus, that's going to become the culture of your company, not the mission statement and values posters on the wall. It's what you say that you care about, right? Amazon, although they didn't care about profits for a long time, had a culture of everybody worked on a desk that made out of a door. There's just things that you can do that start to say, you know what, we would rather give you big Christmas bonuses than have everybody have a free lunch. And if that's the culture of the company, then say so. We're here to make a big profit so that you guys can get big bonuses so that you can buy homes and send your kids to school and put money away for retirement. And that's what the core values of our company are for. And that's why we're making these decisions. And as long as everybody knows that going in, then they'll understand that yeah, we're a bit frugal about certain things because we care about profit and not just being able to pound our chest and say our revenue doubled while our profit got cut in half.
Yeah, exactly. So let's quickly change gears, talk about sales and marketing for a moment. So some amazing stuff in here. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was reliably attracting new customers. I think it's an interesting idea, isn't it? Because it's kind of like you can land customers, but can you land them reliably and in a consistent fashion? So one of the things that resonates personally for me is this idea of like a system. So you never rise to the level of your goal, your $1 million in revenue a year. You always fall to the level of your systems. Where do you land when you talk about reliably attracting new business?
So that is sort of the core idea of sales and marketing. There's the famed management thinker Peter Drucker just said the sole goal of marketing is to create a customer. It's not to get a lot of viral hits. It's not to just get a lot of exposure in the media. It's to create a customer. And so you need to, the two sides of that coin are you need to reliably attract great customers, and then you need to take extraordinary care of them. If you do those two things, the business can't fail unless you blow all the money on extravagant trips and boats and stuff.
Or if you're a Silicon Valley bank, you could also just buy securities.
Right. If you don't do something stupid, right? But if you, so the first part of that equation is, okay, I need to figure out what my unique process is for reliably attracting the clients that I want to attract, and I have to turn that into a craft and say, how do I do that? What is the way that I do that? And what most people do is do 10 things poorly. They try to do cold email marketing and funnels and campaigns, and they hire salespeople and they do social media, and they're just throwing everything against the wall. And then they have no idea what their unique process is to attract their perfect client. And again, I mean, obviously it's the theme here, but fewer, better. What is the core activity that I do that allows me to reliably attract the clients that I want to attract? And then how do I double, triple, quadruple down on that activity? Because I know that if I make 20 phone calls or give 20 keynotes or send out 150 books, that I will get 35 phone calls, which lead to 10 proposals that lead to 5 clients, right? That's figuring out a process of how I get clients. And every business has one, but they get very stuck keeping up with the Joneses and saying, oh, I heard cold email is the thing, so I'm going to do cold email. And that may work, but does it work for you? Does that fit your culture? Does that fit how you reliably find clients? If it is, awesome. Focus on that. If it isn't, stop wasting time, energy, and money on just trying things all over the place.
And one of the key words there is unique. What is your unique process for doing that? Because I find if you're doing everything that everybody else is doing, or you're buying ads on LinkedIn, you're buying ads on Facebook, you're publishing 50 content pieces a week on LinkedIn organically, and you know it's just like because it's part of a tick box go-to-market plan, isn't it? It's kind of like, you're a fractional CMO, told me to do this thing, and wait, let's not forget how it, no go-to-market plan would be complete without a press release, right? Because everyone's dying to hear about your news.
Right, that nobody cares about. Instead of saying, you know what, going to lunches or giving workshops or putting out being a podcast guest or going out on and making my own podcast. and getting people to hear my story and helping people, or just going out and serving people and saying, how can I help? How can I help? If that's the way that you reliably get into great conversations with your ideal clients, then that's what you should be doing all the time. And who cares if social media worked for somebody else? If that's not what's natural to your business, that's not what's going to attract the fewer, better clients that will pay you more than anybody else, then why are you doing that activity?
Yeah. So mine's a podcast. So if I want to open up a relationship, I'm like, yo, I got this amazing platform. Why don't you come onto my show? Like, that's my unique thing. So I can literally get into anyone, anywhere, any company, any size.
Right.
I mean, just yesterday, I've launched this new series called Secrets of Fail, which is coming. Basically, it's where we talk about our failures and stuff like this. And just the first 3 interviews, they're shorter interviews, are like 15 minutes long, which I'm really loving as a as a piece of feedback for you, Howard. But the first 3 guys, right? The first 3 guys in the Secrets of Fail series, their collective revenue was $250 million. And it took me no effort. Cost of acquisition is an email, so it's 0.
Right.
And so that's a really important differentiator for me, because it's a system that, like, I'm just thinking, well, how faster can I do this? If I wanted to scale, that would be my thing, and so it's a unique process to me. And I think the challenge really is, if you're going to scale your company, like, what is your own unique method to create repeatable business?
And how much more fun is it, I think, to be digging deep to think about what is our secret marketing recipe, right? You contrast spending a lot of time and energy in the company, like, what's our secret marketing recipe? Are we going to send a box that has flowers that come shooting out of it, or whatever it is? What is our secret marketing recipe that nobody else can replicate, as opposed to, I'm doing all the marketing things. I got a press release. We got a PR agency. I hired a social media agency. We've added 1,000 more followers on Instagram last month. But if it doesn't, in my first book, there was a chapter called "All Truth is in the Cash Account." It's like, you could spend all this money doing these things, but the cash account doesn't lie, right? It's the same as profit now. If these things aren't doing anything except creating activity and making you feel good about yourself, why are you doing them? As opposed to saying, what's our unique marketing recipe? What do we do that we know that if we do 100 times, it creates 5 customers or 20 customers or 1 customer, so that we know that once we nail it, I mean, this is growth. There's growth hacking that people don't turn into micro growth. There's people that do growth hacking that say, you know what? I know that if I spend $1,000 on Facebook ads, it'll generate 25 leads. And then I know that once I get that dialed in, I know that if I spend 10,000, that formula will still be true. So nobody takes the time to figure that out. They just want to keep up with the Joneses and keep doing everything. And there's heads of marketing and fractional CMOs and marketing agencies that will just tell you, you need to do more. And you're not having enough exposure, and you're not out there, and you need to do more and more and more. And I'm just saying, if you want to be happy running your business, you should try to do fewer things better than anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You also write about this idea of, like, simplicity, and we like to overcomplicate the way that we, when it comes to marketing or messaging or what have you. We like to over communicate or make things sound more complicated than they are. But really, what our customers actually don't care about this complexity. And you write about this this gym, and I believe the payoff line there was like, look better naked.
Look better naked.
Yeah, something like that. Just unpack that for everyone.
There was and this goes back to our discussions about understanding the customer's why instead of your own. There was a gym in New York, and I think they're in Miami, called David Barton, and they had their campaign when they first came out of the gate was "Look Better Naked," and I thought that was brilliant because it spoke to why most people are going to the gym, and it certainly spoke to enough people that they would want to attract and say, "You're here to make your body look better for your mate or date or spouse," right? So they were just honest about it. It reminded me of this old Dudley Moore movie where he's an ad executive who they think has gone insane because he starts just doing honest campaigns, and one of them is Volvo. They're boxy, but they're safe, right? It's just being straight about what it is that you're trying to put out there. We're so enamored by our product, and we want to make ourselves and our pride feel so good by making it sound really complicated. But you're really just going to the gym to look better naked, then this is the gym for you. I don't have to tell you about the machines. I don't have to tell you about all of these different things. It's just that if you want to look better naked, we're going to help you do that. And there's a big enough market of people that just want that out of their gym that you go there.
Yeah, with the Matt Brown Show gym, you get to pose at the end of the bed.
Like, just figure out what your customers really want and then say it in as few as words as possible so that they just understand it. There's no point in confusing your customers. If they can't understand what you're doing quickly, you've lost them, or you've just made your reliably attractive marketing program harder on yourself, right? If my goal as an EOS implementer is to make your company have a clear vision that everybody understands, and everybody in the company is as a healthy company, they like to talk to each other, and that I teach you how to a better method for executing to achieve that vision. That's it. End of conversation. You don't need to read a book. You don't need a chapters. You just have to decide if you want that for your business or not. And the longer that I fill out a website, and the longer that my proposal is, and the longer that I make my slide deck and my pitch, the more I'm taking away from hitting that note, right? I even talk about in the book about once pitching to a bunch of venture capitalists on behalf of a client, and I made my pitch deck one slide that had about 8 builds on it. One slide. It just needed to explain the concept. If they could understand the concept of the software, then every conversation would happen. But they don't care. I didn't show them the org chart and all of this stuff first. I needed them to understand the idea. Johnny Carson used to say, if you buy the premise, you'll buy the bit. Right? So if I can't help somebody buy the premise of what I'm selling them quickly, I'll never get a chance to have the rest of the conversation. So start there. Start with look better naked. Because then somebody's going to say, well, how are you going to, I like that. I want to look better naked. How are you going to help me do that? And then you can have the rest of the conversation when we have these machines and we have these trainers that work on this special approach that really just develops muscle, blah, blah, blah. Right? But if you don't start and create intrigue quickly, especially nowadays, you have to create intrigue and interest quickly. Then you get to have the rest of the conversation.
Cool. So the final part of your book is around risk and resilience. So there's two things I wanted to chat to you about here. So the first thing here is around growth and comfort cannot exist. And I've said this before on the show, and I think I wrote about it in my own book where I was saying, a business can only scale to the extent that you do. And I, even like on the Secrets of Scale series, the number of guys who've said like they as founders, they had to change. They had to grow to a level that allowed that gave them the capacity or the skill set to be able to take their business from 5 million to 50 million. And so this idea of growth and comfort in the context of scale is really important.
Yeah, it's changing how you think about growth, right? I think that. And I just had this conversation with a client the other day where they're so focused on the end result that they're not enjoying the process. And so I talk a lot in the book about mastering your craft. And part of that is slowing down to say, you know what? It's not enough for me to say that my 36-month plan or my 10-year vision is for us to be this kind of company. It's also then being introspective to say, who do I need to become as a leader, as a person, as an owner of a business in order to be effectively leading a business that fits my vision and my dream. And then turn that into atomic habits of what do I have to do? Well, I think I have to become a better speaker, or I have to become a better writer, or I have to become a better communicator, or I have to get better at learning. I have to take my Series 6 test, right? There are parts of me deciding that if I'm not growing, then I'm probably dying. If not literally, then figuratively, that my skills are going to get surpassed if I don't embrace the idea that my personal growth and my experience growth and my knowledge growth is part of my job.
Yeah. There's another great story you share, which I think is super relevant in the context of scale, which is this idea of keep pulling the string. So I'd love for you just to recount the story, because it was really fascinating. It came from a place where it was kind of like a non-event, like something you just a little bit like, I know it's never going to happen. It's not going to work out. It's a bit different to what we usually do, like whatever. And then it wound up actually taking you to an amazing place.
So we had acquired very tiny companies, like 5 or 6 of them while my company was struggling as we were trying to pivot to do fewer things better. We were trying to get into a niche. But we didn't have a lot of money in the bank to do that. And so we did it without a lot of money. And then one day I got a letter from a big investment bank in California asking if that there was a business that they were representing that wanted to sell that was a big known business. And would I be interested? And I'm sitting here thinking, this thing is going to cost many millions of dollars that we don't have. And I just thought, you know what? I'll write back to them and say, I'll sign the NDA. Sure. And they sent me this big bound book that had all these numbers of who the company was, which I then knew who it was. And we went all the way down the road. And I just kept, for whatever reason back then, I kept saying, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep pulling this string and see where it goes. I met with the owner. We hit it off. We had the right level of thinking. He liked the idea of being part of our company. So I said, okay, that worked. He wanted me to meet all their staff. I flew around the country meeting all of their management. We all hit it off. They all wanted to do this. So I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to keep going. Now I needed to go raise $2 million for the down payment. And I went running around and I met with one banker after another who were kind enough to say, this is not for me, but you should talk to this guy. And then the next one and the next one, I probably fixed my spreadsheet and fixed my projections and fixed my pitch deck 30 times. And I finally stumbled into an office of a company that was looking to do deals of just this size with companies just like ours. And then unfortunately, the owner of the company got cold feet at the very end and decided he wanted to keep the company and not sell. And I tell the story in the book because you would think that at the end of that story, like, oh my God, that is thanks for telling me that incredibly epic fail story to go with your other series. But it actually, looking back on it, taught me a valuable lesson. Like sometimes you just have to keep going and see where things go. And don't just stop yourself because you've decided in your head that it's going to fail. Because the byproduct of it is I met a whole bunch of people. I created a network of bankers who got to know me and knew that I was a straight shooter and that I was honest with them, that I would call again in my future and with deals that were the right size for them, or who would start sending me deals or would start making introductions to me just because I pushed myself out of my comfort zone into an area that I didn't really know about, but just kept saying, keep going, keep pulling that string. Who knows where it's going to go? And so the point of that story is don't decide something's not going to work if you haven't actually gone down the road a bit to test and see.
It's a really important point. So Howard and everybody who've enjoyed this, got it up on screen. You can get Fewer Better on Amazon. Howard, how can guys reach out to you?
Really simple, howardmann with 2 N's.com. There's a contact form there. You can find me as Howard Mann, at Howard Mann on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, on all your other favorite channels. So if you want to chat, I'm always up to chat with a business owner that wants more out of their business.
Sweet dude. Well, look, I've loved the book, man. Like, it's so funny. So when you sent me the book, I was like, I don't have time to read this book. Like, it's another thing on my massive to-do list. Like, thank you, Howard, for ruining my day.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, exactly. But and then, what's also great about this book, just to wrap up here, guys, is that this book is really cool in the sense of it's not like a 70,000 word thing that you have to find time to read. And, it's like 32,000 words. And I literally read your book, I think, over 5 evenings in bed, like maybe spending 20 minutes, half an hour, over those 5. So it's a short read, but I think the perspective that I left with was really compelling. So thank you for doing the book. Thank you for not
fewer
making
better words.
Yeah, fewer better words too. So thank you for not.
It's modeled after short stories, right? It's modeled after a book of short stories that everybody likes, and some short stories will resonate and some won't, and you don't have to invest a ton of time in each one. And I hope that people will find the business and life lessons in there that resonate with them, and can skip over the ones that don't resonate at this moment in their journey.
Awesome. All right, Howard. Well, look, always great speaking to you, buddy.
Always a pleasure. Thanks
Cheers.
for having me.